Welcome to the August 26, 2016 edition of Colorado Inside Out Postgame, a special web-exclusive production here on Channel 12. Let's get a quick take on the 7-0 vote planning to address Denver's affordable housing issues, receiving initial approval from a Denver City Council committee this week. The decade-long $150 million proposal would build or maintain 6,000 housing units and would depend on property tax increases, marijuana tax revenue, and fees in new development. Eric Sondren, political analyst, he joins the table in a seat we usually go to Miss Calhoun for, but little musical chairs with some folks being out this week. Is this proposal the right way for Denver to handle or at least address the affordable housing crisis?
We will see. The proposal is going to go through. It will not go through on a unanimous vote like it did at committee. There will be some alternative viewpoints in front of full council. But by all indications, they have their votes, and it will go forward. It's been negotiated between council and the mayor. This is one of these intractable issues that face most major metropolitan areas across this country, but particularly ones that are in the middle of a growth boom such as Denver is. I don't have the answer. I'm hoping City Council and the mayor have the answer. It'll color me a bit dubious, and excuse my dubiousness if I'm not 100% confident that that is the case. It is a mix of tax increases. Yes, the tax impact on the typical Denver homeowner is not all that great, but courtesy of something around here called the Gallagher Amendment, if you happen to own a business property, you will pay very much through the nose for this, as well as other development fees and other sources of revenue. This city is gentrifying, and that is not all good. I mean, we talked on the TV program. Our quick take subject was about Patsy's closing up in North Denver, and as a city gentrifies, there's opportunity, but there are also losses. And there's always a balancing act between the opportunities and losses. At the end of the day, as I said, color me a bit dubious that government is going to be able, in a meaningful way, there'll certainly be progress at the margins, but at a meaningful way, reverse what are market forces. I think market forces ultimately probably prevail. And if it can soften some blows, God bless, more power to them. The question is, how much softening is there and at what price?
And for the record, being dubious is very welcome at the CIO table, so we're very happy how dubious you may be. John Andrews joins us, former state Senate president. John, you have been a part of a lot of lawmaking in your career. You've seen big plans like this, things that need to take over 10 years to come that get funding from a lot of different sources. From your experience in seeing plans like that, and you look at this one, is it done the right way?
Tom, there is a reason that it is a punchline to say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Eric, I know you're not a Democrat anymore, but you and I have been in these battles together or against each other for a long, long time. You were my kind of Democrat back then because you understand government probably doesn't do it as well as markets, despite the reality of the problem and the good intentions, presumably, behind the proposal. You can't tug on Superman's cape, or you shouldn't. You can't mess with Mother Nature, and you can't repeal supply and demand. You said the key word, Eric, markets. Ultimately, if Denver policymakers found a way to incentivize building by private developers and get some of the regulation and taxation and zoning restrictions out of the way, affordable housing would happen without government intervention.
John Boyman's at the table, a correspondent with 5 Points News, a longtime journalist here in Colorado. So you're looking at this issue, and forgive me, I should know off the top of my head, but I know you've at least been a Denverite for a long time. You might be one of the Denverites to be paying more taxes one way or the other through this plan. Is this the right way to address this issue?
Well, there's a law in the books, if I'm not mistaken, that requires all new builds to have 10% set aside for affordable housing. None of the developers adhere to this. They had to almost take Stapleton to court to get them to put in a few. Lowry the same way. So if the developers would do what the law says and the people who enforce the laws would enforce the laws, maybe we wouldn't need to take it to this level. So that's my take. Just do what's on the books right now, and maybe that would help, at least be a start.
Justine Sandoval, a political activist. You and I have something in common. Our families all grew up here in Denver, specifically North Denver. When our grandparents bought their houses in the neighborhoods that we cherish now, they could afford them on a pretty basic salary. They weren't rich, they weren't hipsters or yuppies. I couldn't go back to live in that neighborhood if I wanted to right now because of the value of the very same house that they bought. So when you look at the affordable housing issue in Denver, it is significant. Is this the right plan?
You know, this plan was a decade in the making, and honestly, 6,000 new units of housing doesn't even do a drop in the bucket for what Denver needs. And as a third-generation Denverite, I think my parents bought their house in Northwest Denver in the early 80s for $50,000. It's way more than that. My family's actually from Curtis Park. My grandparents bought their house for like $5,000 back in the 1900s. So the thing is, these families are still here in Denver, and there needs to be affordable housing. You have these developers coming in, and it's like a free-for-all to build all of these houses and these multi-unit housing that is not affordable. A family cannot afford a house that could, you know, comfortably house their families in Denver. And we're running into the problem that San Francisco's having with like inflated housing costs. The problem here is we don't have the incomes here in Denver that the tech industry provides in San Francisco. So you're getting this influx of overpriced housing for really incomes that can't afford it in Denver. We've started to ignore, and we have this idea that we're having these high incomes moving in, but really it's an inflated number because there are people in Denver who do not make the income to sustain the cost of living in Denver, and we need to look at that and really say who is Denver and who do we need to house here, and really take a step back and support some of the older Denver community, because when the bubble bursts and people leave again, there's still the same families for generations that are here that have to live in this city and continue to keep Denver alive.
Mm-hmm. That's all the time we have for Colorado Inside Postgame this week. Leave us a comment and tell us what you think. For everyone here at CPT12.org, I'm Dominic Dezzutti. Thanks for watching.